Hey, members of the Spector Creative online community and Apple Farm. Welcome to another look at toy history. If you're new to this channel, one of the things we like to do is talk about the history of toys, how toys are made, how they wind up at retail. In particular, sometimes, we get out our shovel and our spade and our pick and our other devices and we go digging through the history of toys. And in particular, when I worked at Mattel on the Masters of the Universe brand, I did a lot of digging into the history of the brand, especially for the 2009 San Diego Comic-Con coffee table book. Was it 2009? Maybe 2008. I don't know. My memory fades as I get older. But, it came out right before Classics did, or early on in the line. And when I was researching the book, I found a lot of material that pertained to the very beginning of the brand and how it was created, who created it, how the concepts changed over time, how, for example, Tthe started off as 2 characters and then became 1 because they didn't want to release 2 females in the beginning of the line. Long story, see the other videos. So today, though, I want to talk about some of the development in the middle of the line, when new vehicles and new characters were created. And much like in the beginning, they changed as time went by. And concepts went from drawings to figure, and there were different versions of figures from what we finally got on the shelf. And during the research that I did for the book, I found a lot of stuff that pertained to that sort of midpoint in the line, say the 1984-ish area. So we're going to make this a 2-parter because there's a lot to talk about and there were a lot of documents. So we're going to go back to the 1980s when everything was cool and dancing was awesome and half-naked barbarian warriors were a normal thing to hang on store shelves. So specifically, come with me to visit 1984 when sort of the mid-level characters were designed and several documents that brought their history to life were created. So, as the addendum noticed, story and character guides for the 1984 extension of the Masters of the Universe line was written out by Richard Pardee, and it introduced background for a lot of the new characters that were going to become, classic parts of Masters of the Universe. Characters like Webstor and Fisto and Clawful. So, journey with me to Eternia as we look at the origins of the 1984 line. In another dimension, in a far distant galaxy, there occurred a galactic-shattering event, Skeletor's rebellion against the greatest evil power in existence, the all-powerful ruler of Valenia. Note, to be introduced as the Evil Horde series, 1985. Skeletor, the youngest, brightest, and most crafty of all the ruler's apprentices, decided his time had come to usurp power over Valenia. Underestimating the ruler's power, Skeletor and those who had sided with him were forced to flee. In the wake of the Valenian ruler's wrath, some were successful in making their escape with Skeletor, though the time portal and into the kingdom of Eternia. Others less fortunate were apprehended and thrown into the Abyss, a huge black hole in space that swallows up everything that comes near, never to return or to be retrieved. Though many years have passed since the rebellion, neither the evil ruler of Valenia nor Skeletor have forgotten their destiny, to one day face each other once again for ultimate supremacy of all the multidimensional universe. Among these hapless followers of Skeletor that were captured and thrown into the Abyss, several survived the black depth of its confinement. Hurling through the black hole at the speed of light, traversing billions of miles of space and through multi-dimensions, Skeletor's former cohorts are suddenly spewed from the interior of the Great White Hole Nebula and towards a nearby planetary system that is home to Eternia. Spinning end over end towards Eternia, a strange phenomenon has occurred as a result of their journey through the black hole. The villainous newcomers are enveloped in its protective electromagnetic insulation that has allowed them to survive their ordeal. Drawn by the gravitational attraction of the Eternian planet, the force field envelope cushions their fall as they land, one by one, on the bleak, storm-whipped desert of the sands of time. Even though the journey through the black hole seemingly took only minutes, they are too soon find that many years have elapsed since their Valenian judgment. Rising to their feet, dazed and confused, they set out to look for relief from the oppressive heat and more hospitable terrain. Meanwhile, far away and in the dark abode of Snake Mountain, Skeletor's sensor scanner has picked up activity in the desert. Knowing few would venture the sands of time intentionally, unless it was a matter of life or death, Skeletor's curiosity is piqued for a better view. Moving the scanner's view in closer, he has difficulty seeing through the cyclonic whirlwinds that mute his view. Slowly the storm begins to subside, enough to get a clear view. Suddenly Skeletor's mouth drops open in shock as each of his followers come into view. Evelyn comes into the room, one of the few of Skeletor's followers not with him at the time of the rebellion. Skeletor is overwhelmed with elation at their appearance as he explains each follower's attributes. The first is Webstor. Descended from the ancient amphibious race of subterranean creatures, his greatest ability lies in his master of escape and evasion. Eventually, Skeletor admits, had it not been for Webstor, he, Skeletor, might not have been able to find the time warp through which he was able to escape. Webstor is the master of dexterity. Not only is proficient in climbing with his web-like feet and hands, but with keen eyes and perfect muscular coordination, he can use his climbing hook and Tthe while equal ability in climbing the most insurmountable terrain. Webstor can also use his climbing hook for a weapon, lashing it out at his adversaries with whip-like speed and accuracy, blinding his opponent and rendering them helpless. Next, the powerful warrior Clawful, a crustacean-like creature, half man, half crab. He possesses one large pincher for a hand that has the crushing power of thousands of pounds of pressure. Due to his crustacean genetics, Clawful can withstand extremes of heat and cold. Except for his massively muscled man-like arms and legs, his head and body are encased in a thick lobster shell mantle that serves as an impenetrable armor. Next into view, Skeletor sees Jitsu, the consummate master of martial arts, who has never met his match in or out of any arena. On Valenia, before the rebellion, he was master of the arena, never to be defeated in over 1,000 battles. Representing the ultimate in athletic ability, with his one metal-gloved fist powerful enough to drive a massive tree stump flush with the ground, and combined with the ability and speed of a hummingbird, he was the most formidable warrior in all of Valenia. A massively built creature known as Whiplash steps into the scanner's view. Half man, half reptile, all want to stay clear of the whipping force of his crocodile-like tail. Often his adversaries mistakenly underestimate him as a dull-witted, sluggish creature, only to find out that he is keen, perceptive, fleet of movement, and extremely accurate with his tail against his attackers. His keen reptilian eyesight and sense of smell makes him the greatest tracker and guide in the entire universe. Even though, like Clawful, he can withstand extreme heat and deprivation, he is forced into hibernating state under conditions of extreme cold. A hissing sound comes over the scanner as Cobra Khan steps into view, the last of an extinct race of snake creatures. Half man, half snake, he moves along with the others, turning his head from side to side, extending his heat-sensing tongue to pick up any movement of possible prey or foe. Opposite of Webstor's ability at evasion, Cobra Khan can locate friend or foe at great distance and in the most ingenious hiding places with highly developed tongue simply by picking up their body heat. I think we're missing a preposition there. His greatest strength, however, lies in an ability to memorize his unwary victim with a venomous mist of evil that he sprays with his mouth, which puts his adversary into a hypnotic trance and thus easy prey. Skeletor's first impulse of elation is to go into his old comrade's rescue, then suddenly a horrible thought comes to him. Perhaps they are not of one mind with him after all these many years. Then a shocking thought hits him. Maybe they have even sided with the ruler of Valenia, and are now here on Eternia's mercenaries, come to take him back for a handsome reward. Could it be? I must be sure, he tells Evelyn, but how? Just then, Beastman comes into the room with Skeletor's new brainchild, Screech, a huge, evil-looking bionic falcon with fierce demonic eyes that can change to visual scanning computers at will. Part falcon from the genus Falconus gigantus, and part bionic Screech is controlled by a special computer for a brain, which Skeletor has programmed to do his bidding. Screech's special bionics give him the ability to change in a flying arsenal, changing from dive bomber to flying fortress at will. At the state of Screech's presence, Skeletor's demeanor comes alive with an idea. He tells his two evil companions that he will send Screech on his test flight. He will be sent to watch his old comrades' activities, and with Screech's ability to control the actions and directions of others through thought transfer waves via his built-in mind control device, Skeletor can easily direct the villainous newcomers to Snake Mountain without them knowing it, and in the meanwhile it will give Skeletor an opportunity to observe their actions and see whether his former Valenian cohorts are still worthy of his lead. Meanwhile, in the far-off outskirts of Eternia's kingdoms, there resides the city of Targa. See A Tale of Two Cities, Masters of the Universe 66031. Garn is now ruler of Targa. Rhea, formerly the princess of the adjoining city of Operon, is now his wife and queen. Garn learned from He-Man that physical power that is guided by a moral and righteous hand is a kingdom's greatest asset. In keeping with this philosophy, Garn has placed his able student Fisto in command of the Targan Guards. Fisto is a good, kind, and considerate as his evil counterpart. Jitsu is selfish, greedy, and possessive. Also, like his evil counterpart, Fisto is the greatest athlete and warrior in all of the provinces, next to Garn, and a martial art master, non-peril. His fist is powerful enough to cut thick armor plate in half with one blow, and with the physical strength of 3 men and with the coordination of an acrobat, Fisto is more than a formidable defender of the province. Once, on a diplomatic call, Tthe and Man-at-Arms were flying back from Targa when Man-at-Arms got a particular signal over his radar scanner. The signal was coming from an uncharted position of the evergreen forest. Not leaving anything to chance, they decide to investigate. Moments later, to their amazement, the visual monitor reveals what looks like a very young half-humanoid child, half-bee. It appears to be fleeing the Dragos, huge dragon-like creatures that forage anything that moves. Forage on anything that moves. That makes more sense. Forage. Using the Wind Raider's laser stun, the Dracos is driven away and the youngster rescued. Searching the area for the youngster's home soon reveals the rest of the story. Not far from the spot, high above the forest, nestled neatly in the top of the 200-foot mana vines, Man-at-Arms and Tthe find the frightened young child's home. Somehow the youngster decided to venture out of his home before he was physically able to, and fell to the dark depths of the forest below. With the warrior males and their leader Buzz-Off gone, the rest of the colony had to watch in terror as the youngster tried to escape. As Man-at-Arms and Tthe returned the youngster, Buzz-Off and his warriors returned to the colony. Told what happened and how the 2 strangers saved the child, Buzz-Off told them that he would forever be in their debt. The child was his son. Tthe asked who they were and where they came from. In the course of inquiry, Tthe and Man-at-Arms learned that they are called the Apoidea, Apoidea, bee people. Buzz-Off told them that the legends tell of their ancestors coming from the lush garden that is now the great desert, the sands of time. Famine hit the land, and the people began to starve. Then a strange thing happened. A swarm of bees led them out of their great walled city and their combs of mana on the outskirts of this forest, the evergreen forest. Our ancestors were saved. Working and living together for many millennia, natural selection began to blend the 2 species together. Finally, after many more centuries, a new species, the Apoidea, came into existence. Now they make their home high in the ancient mana vines that provide their substance. Even though humanoid in general body structure with muscular arms and legs, Buzz-Off has 2 very specialized abilities. One, he is capable of lifting many times his own body weight by the rapid movement of his bee-like wings, often having to grab large boulders or falling trees and dropping them in the path of an enemy or an attacking Draco. The second ability is the keen surveillance vision of his large, bulbous, polyoptic eyes of his radar helmet that serve as an infrared scanner and radar. His sword and lance serve as stingers, and his armor can even shun a laser blast. Upon learning that the 2 are from Eternian Palace and the home of the legendary He-Man, Buzz-Off dedicates himself to their service and endeavors to fight the evil forces of Skeletor. Tthe and Man-at-Arms return to the palace. Man-at-Arms is anxious to return to his latest scientific development, a bionic warrior. Man-at-Arms has taken one of the kingdom's greatest allies, a mighty warrior named Maka, and has endowed him with a bionic neck that can be extended and used as a periscope to see over and around obstructions that would be otherwise inaccessible. Plus, when the neck is extended, it can function as a computer and scanning device that can locate an enemy at any distance and give a readout on number of enemy, who or what they are, and types of weapons, if any, within a microsecond. And from this day forward, he will be called Mekanek. Perhaps destiny has brought these new allies together at an important time, for little do our champions know that Skeletor too will be bringing more evil, treacherous, and greedy followers into his fold. The new invasion of Eternia begins. And where that begins, we're going to end today's video, simply because, well, I don't like to make 30-minute videos. I like to try to keep them at least under 20 minutes, if not under 15 minutes. Next week, we'll pick up with the original draft of the Evil Horde and look at some of the original names that were used, the concepts, and well, for now, I'll just leave you with a photograph of Sir Richard Burton circa 1843. I hope you enjoyed the video and a cool look at the origins of the middle of the Masters of the Universe line from the 1980s. A lot more is to come. Stay tuned next week as we hit the second half, and share, ring the bell, subscribe, all that stuff. It helps the algorithm. Thanks for watching.